Hello, I'm Tyson Witten, Senior Principal within CA Technology's Security Solutions Business Unit. Thank you for joining me as I discuss the topic of information protection and control. In today's evolving technology and regulatory business climate, organizations continue to struggle with meeting their data governance initiatives. In the past, it was acceptable to deploy point technologies as a stopgap to solving data loss prevention issues. This is no longer acceptable. Businesses must now take a comprehensive approach to information protection and control in order to solve the many data control challenges and mandates they face, whether it's adhering to known regulations, corporate policies, and security issues, or high-priority risks that have yet to be identified within the organization. During this video, I'm going to cover 6 information protection and control best practices steps to solving these challenges. The first step is defining your policies. In order to properly define your policies, you must ensure they're aligned with your business objectives. Business objectives would include corporate policies that span privacy, legal, and finance. They would include external regulations such as US-based Sarbanes-Oxley and HIPAA, European regulations such as Garante, Australian Privacy Acts, banking regulations in India and Singapore, the circular regulation in South America, or global standards such as PCI. And they would also include security policies that attempt to control the mobility of data in social networking communications. All of these policies take into account data that must be controlled. Examples of data that would need to be controlled include intellectual property, non-public information, personal health information, and personally identifiable information. Now, in order to control this data, you must prioritize. The best way to do this is to understand your level of risk. You need to identify what data is sensitive and could impact your business, as well as the likelihood of this data being compromised. By understanding those 2 elements, you can prioritize how you should handle data. Once you understand what controls you want to prioritize and where you want to focus your investment, you can now start mapping those controls to policies. So for areas of risk that you know, you can map control priorities to these policies. But as you deploy information protection control programs, you will undoubtedly learn more and adjust as you identify other areas of business risk. Next, we'll cover content detection. Accurately detecting sensitive content is a critical element of control. By detecting sensitive content which could impact the business provides a key piece of information to controlling data. There are 2 techniques you need to take into account when detecting content: the ability to register content and the ability to describe content. Content registration examples include fingerprinting and partial fingerprinting. It's critical to use this technique to detect intellectual property that could be in graphic, audio, or video formats, as well as a sentence-level detection within text files. The second technique is describing content. Examples of this would include lexicons and keywords to detect content within files such as documents and spreadsheets. The next step is operational context. Understanding operational processes, or the context in which data is used, is the second key factor in properly controlling data. Insight into how data is used will give you a sense of how likely it is that the data will be compromised. In order to determine the context in which data is used, you must do the following. The first step is identifying where the data is used as part of the data lifecycle. Channels would include in motion or over the network, in use or on workstations, laptops, data being transferred to USB devices or printers, or at rest, data within databases, file systems, or even collaboration software. The second step is determining how the data is used. It's important to understand what's the volume of communications. Is the data hitting unacceptable thresholds? This is critical to determining broken processes within the organization. The third step is identifying who is using the data. Is a finance role sending payroll data to somebody in engineering, which would be considered unacceptable? Or is payroll sending salary information to the VP of Finance, which would be considered acceptable based on their entitlements? Understanding the identity of the employee involved in communicating data is critical to control. By determining operational context, you now know the likelihood of a threat to your data or non-compliance with your policy. We'll now discuss the next step in the process, protection and control. By understanding the sensitive content within your environment and the operational context that surrounds this data, you can now effectively control it. Essentially what you have is content times context equals your risk level, and now you can prioritize your controls. By previously prioritizing enforcement based on the known risk within your business, you can now take the following actions. Here are the examples. Passively monitoring policy violations, actively educating end users to drive compliance improvement, enforcing encryption within or outside your organization, assigning digital rights within or outside the organization, quarantining sensitive data for appropriate review, or blocking access to data altogether. In order to execute on these actions, you'll need to evaluate technologies within the information protection and control ecosystem. Examples of these types of technologies include data loss prevention technologies, digital rights management technologies, encryption technologies, and identity and access management technologies. Now, it's important not to forget, don't fragment these technologies. You don't want to implement them in silos. By fragmenting deployment of these technologies, the organization is not realizing their full potential. Now let's discuss program management. In order to enable an effective information protection and control program, the following are key areas that must be taken into account. The first step is to identify key stakeholders that will play a part in your information protection and control program. They could be business owners across compliance, legal, finance, or security. They could be functional groups across different lines of business, or geographically dispersed players that must be tied in. The next step is assigning ownership responsibilities to these stakeholders. Responsibilities should include incident review, remediation, which should require interaction with a violator, or policy tuning for adjustments. It's critical that the activities identified be reasonably supported by each stakeholder. Sustainable processes and procedures are key to a long-term and successful program. The final step is performance measurement. Dashboards and reports are key to program visibility. An information control dashboard provides transparency into the current state of your program, as well as how your program is doing over time. It should provide key performance indicators that will allow you to baseline the current state of your program, determine what level of compliance you're at, and quantify your current level of incidents. Having these metrics will then allow you to focus on improvement. For instance, did you identify new areas of risk that requires policy tuning? Were broken data control processes identified that requires adjustment to detection techniques or employee entitlements? Or do you need to look at adding, removing, or changing controls? This is critical. Finally, your program should contain reporting that will meet business, security, compliance, and auditing needs. This is a data control lifecycle that drives improvement over the life of the program. Here are the main takeaways. Number 1, define policies and control priorities based on your risk level. Number 2, use advanced detection techniques to detect sensitive content throughout the organization. Number 3, monitor operational context to determine data usage. Number 4, leverage the intelligence of content and context to protect and control your data while enabling business processes. Number 5, identify the right stakeholders and create a sustainable process and procedure to support a long-term and successful program. And then finally, number 6, measure performance to drive ongoing improvement. Thank you for joining me in discussing the challenges surrounding data control and the 6 information protection and control steps to meet these challenges. Good luck moving forward in your information and protection and control initiatives. Thank you.